Welcome to Your Iconic Image. If you want to take control of your image and be a power player in your space, then this is the show for you. Here we will arm you with tools and information to help you grow your brand on purpose. I'm your host, Marlana Semenza, photographer and visual strategist. Now let's dive into today's episode. Julia Lage is a Brazilian bass player, singer, and songwriter. Inspired by bands like Rush, Aerosmith, and Guns N' Roses, she began learning the bass at the age of 13. With a BA in music and arts, as well as an extensive studio and touring experience, Julia has found herself performing and recording with a vast array of A-list artists and musicians, such as Pat Travers, Elliot Easton, Richie Kotzen, Adrian Smith, Janelle Monáe, and the all-female platinum-selling rock band Vixen. Welcome, Julia.
Thank you. Thanks for having me here.
So you started off in Brazil, and then you had some success in Brazil, and then you came here. So tell us a little bit about that whole, what you did there.
Well, I played for 13 years in Brazil, and we did had a good heat there for a while. I toured, I used to play arenas there, rodeos, was always on TV, radios and stuff like that. And I learned a lot with that. I joined the band, I was 17. So I was just like a baby. And I remember, it was amazing, but at the same time, I wasn't really playing the kind of music I love. I was playing what we call Brazilian country music, which is the country music. People from the countryside write songs. It's kind of similar like America, but the rhythm is similar, but has a little different swing here and there, it's Brazilian. But so I started there. And we did all major stuff, for real. We had a bus with our faces on it. It was a big band for a while. Then it started declining. And after 13 years, I was not seeing myself at all excited anymore or happy about it or anything. I was completely whatever. I will come home from the shows, put my bass on the side, not even look for my bass or my guitar, nothing, not try to write anything, nothing, and just live my life. Whenever the next show was going to happen, I was okay, tell me where and what time I'll be there. You know what I mean? So I was completely I don't know. I lost interest, I don't know, for a bunch of reasons. But so then after 13 years, I decided to finally quit the band. But actually what helped me with the decision was the fact that I started dating my now husband, but my boyfriend at the time, whatever, Richie. So that helped me too. And then he was so since you're so frustrated with your band, why don't you quit, sell your stuff, move and come to LA. I'm what? And then actually I did it. I'm here.
So we have Richie to thank.
Guess so, yes. I mean, he keeps saying I ruined her life. I say, no, you actually, made it very exciting because I was in a plateau. I was very unmotivated. I didn't know what I was anymore, what I wanted. It was too many years of the same things and not really the kind of music I love. So yeah, I mean, I thank you for bringing me here because I've been digging my career here since then.
So how is the music scene different here for you?
Well, first of all, for me, it's very different because nowadays I'm playing what I like, which is rock and roll. So since I moved here, I did a few different gigs here and there in the beginning, obviously. But most of the gigs were rock gigs. And I was super surprised. I was oh my God, obviously, rock. I mean, America has way more rock. I mean, if you go to Costco, they're playing Eagles, they're playing whatever, rock. And in Brazil, they're playing all kinds of stuff, not rock. So when I got here, I was oh my God, I love all this. So for me, the biggest difference is for sure that I'm playing actually what I like the most here. So, and that's very important for me, at least, to do what I love.
Yeah. And I know along the way you wrote songs for film and TV. Were you approached to write them or had you written them? How did that all work?
Both. I mean, I was approached to write a few stuff, and so I did. And funny enough, was mostly rock stuff, which is good. And then there's a few movies and little placements of songs that already exist. Even with my band, we have a song in the movie that closed the movie with our song. No, that's my song. But there's another movie that had like an entire song played in a scene. So they played our entire song in a scene, and we're like, wow, they were cheering. This is so cool, you know? So I like both for sure.
So did you have to like reinvent anything about yourself when you came here to start to pursue a more of a rock career than what you were doing?
Well, not really. I was always a rock chick in my heart. As you said, I start learning bass because of bands like Rush, Aerosmith, Guns N' Roses, whatever, you name it. But one thing that I had to reinvent, let me think. I think because I did join my band in Brazil, I was very young, and they were already a band that was kind of establishing at least. So like I never, for example, that's very technical for musicians, but they get it. Like usually depending on the gig, you bring your own amp or your own pedals for sure, but like your amp, your microphone stand, your little gear, your PA. I never did that in Brazil. I would get to the gigs and everything is there. So I was very spoiled right in the beginning, and then I never did the hustle, the getting the gear, the driving far for the gears for the gigs, because I was just, you know, getting in the bus and going out. So that was different. When I moved here, I had to reinvent everything. And like, okay, what am I going to do? And that was probably the hardest phase of my life too. So I even did it like church gigs, which is like, you know, completely different. And you have to read. I wasn't reading anything in Brazil, parts, you know, and then, or like carrying gear, like, you know, for the first time, like I'm like carrying gear, like playing 4-hour sets, all this stuff I did here. And I think that's a big humbling scenario, you know, for anybody. I was like, wow. I mean, I was kind of, you know, already unmotivated in Brazil, but I had it good in a way, you know. But then coming here, even though I was doing all this, like, oh, like we're driving so far, and then, you know, it's 2 a.m. I'm coming back home, I'm exhausted. I'm bringing this gear, putting PA together, da da da. I was still super happy because I was not only playing rock and roll, all the songs that I always loved, but I was like reconnecting with myself again. Like, oh, that's what I really liked. I like this music, and I really like to interact with the public and, you know, be me. I'm outgoing. I'm like, I like that. I am an entertainer. And in Brazil, I was being like, you know, more and more quiet and more like my light was kind of dimming. So that was a good, you know, like a phoenix. Like, yeah, I was rising again.
So how did you start to get traction, or how did you know that you were starting to get some traction?
Well, a few things, but like coming here to LA, probably already heard about that. There's tons of jams everywhere. So people go out and they jam, right? It's a good way to meet new people, to meet new musicians. And then, you know, you talk to them, you do your network, all that stuff. And I remember I was obviously dating Richie, my husband. And then one of the jams wanted my husband to come jam, and he was like, you know, he doesn't need to go out and jam, I guess. He has a pretty established career, but he said, well, but I can come do like a night, like a few songs, but like I would like to bring my band. And then he brought me as the bass player. I wasn't on his band, but he knew that I could perform his songs the way he liked and everything. So he brought me in, and then that was the first step to get in. And then since then, the people from the jam kept asking, come jam, let's go jam. And I'll go, and I get hired a few times, to do the house bands. And so, you know, and then people start knowing who you are and start, oh, there's that girl. Oh, she also can sing. Oh, you know what I mean? Oh, she kind of look good, blah, blah, whatever they need. Cause I learned that in LA, there's a lot of looks involved too.
Yeah. You think?
Yeah. I mean, so, but yeah, so I think that's how I start, you know, getting my name around, because that's how you have to do. It's not working, period.
And like you said, Richie had a very, you know, established career. Do you think that helped you, or did it really not matter one way or the other because you didn't go off of him and his connections?
Right, yeah, I don't think it matters that much. It didn't matter that much. It mattered that day when he brought me in the gym, but that was it. Like after that, everything started happening on my own. You know, like he can't bring me if I was like not like professional, or if I wasn't whatever good enough.
Right.
He could bring me as many times as he wants. I would not get anywhere.
Right.
So, and I'm very perfectionist. So every time I go places, I like to be prepared, or like, you know what I mean? So yeah, I mean, obviously, I guess for exposure here and there, you know, people see me, for example, on his Instagram, and they click, oh, who is this chick? And then they figure out, oh my gosh, she plays bass as well. What is that? You know, maybe that, but yeah, I mean, we both have different careers, different separate things. So yeah.
What's it like to have two musicians in the house?
It can be difficult because like if I'm recording something or trying to write something, like record vocals, for example, I do here in this room because I have this little, you know, desk here. Everything is here actually. But I only do this here because he's in the studio on the other side of the house and it leaks. So like if I had a perfect room just for the studio, but then the first time I try to record something, he's on his studio, I'm hearing drums. I'm like, this is not gonna work. So I had to put together something in this room. But like other than that, I mean, it's pretty chill. I mean, we're not always like playing loud music in the house. I mean, we do that for a living. So when we come in the house, we might play a radio station of Tom Petty or like Hall & Oates or Eagles, something chill, you know, cook something, but we don't make too much noise at the same time. We need to balance, you know.
Do you critique each other?
Yes, but positively, like, you know, good criticism. Like I even ask Richie sometimes to say, you know, like singing wise, I love his voice. And then sometimes I record something and clearly I have a Brazilian accent and stuff. So, and then I ask him like, what do you think? What do you think? Like, does it sound okay? And I do trust him because I tend to think too much and overthink. I'm a Libra and I'm like, oh, is that good or not? So yeah, I ask for criticism and he does too. Like sometimes he we talk about, of course. Yeah. And we know the best of both. Like he know my best and know his best. So I think it's good criticism. It's never like, oh my God, you know what I mean?
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
So when you write songs, do you have to be in a certain headspace, or what does your writing process look like?
Definitely go to headspace for sure. Usually when I'm alone, when Richie goes out for touring, goes out, I usually tend to write more because then there's less distractions too. And you get in the zone. Like I get in a studio and I'll sit here for hours and forget to eat. I have like coffee and next day I have reflux and I don't know why. But yeah, I have to go to a different mind place because I like writing and I imagine everything, like, you know, the guitars, the drums, the beats, the bass, the whatever. I like literally arranging stuff too. And then I go sing and I like to think about maybe what am I going to sing about? What is this song bringing me? You know, because rarely starts with the lyrics for me. So then I start, you know, I have to just literally look, I look outside the window here, I look and I start thinking about lyrics and words and what's going to be cool, what's going to make sense. So for sure, you have to be in a different mind space. Like you have to get out of things for sure. And sometimes it can be like, if I'm upset for something, it's very helpful. You know, if you have a heavy energy on you, it could be upsetting, could be excitement, could be whatever. That usually helps too. If you sit down and use that energy to put out in words or whatever, or songs, that helps for sure.
See, and that's always been baffling to me, that you can just write something from nothing and put yourself there, kind of a thing, where instead of, oh my gosh, I'm so upset about this, I have to write something.
Right. I rarely in my life wrote stuff based on reality or something that happened. Rarely. I get inspirations, of course, But yeah, that is interesting. A lot of people are the opposite. A lot of people use their own personal lives. Like Taylor Swift, I know she writes all about her love life or whatever.
Yeah, she writes about everybody.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't know much about her work, but I know that she writes based on her experiences.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, I don't. And I like tripping out about possibilities and words and like scenario. I don't know. And then I'm about to finish my first solo album. And sometimes it's even like a little, what exactly is she talking about? Not nonsense, but like, I like to be to live to the creativity of people, to think about what can I be, not obvious stuff. I like that. So yeah, music is just very interesting. It's creating, it's art. I mean, it's like painting. You just start from nothing.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. And I wouldn't worry about if people understand it or not, because Queen made a whole career on them, on things that you can't necessarily understand.
Totally. No, and it's not even, that's the point of like, some people might get upset or something. Oh my God, I don't get the feedback I want. But like, when I write a song, I'm writing first of all for myself, because I have that energy, that creativity. I'm like, oh, and I get excited. I listen to the demo, like, yeah, look at it. And I want to share with my husband or someone. But that's why I'm trying to finish my album, because I've been writing for so long and I have a few singles here and there. But Rich is like, people have to hear your stuff, finish. And I'm like, yeah. But that's why, because I already get excited myself with my own demos, And yeah, I mean, you shouldn't expect anything from other people. It should be, first of all, for you. I don't think, people are like, oh, I'm going to go paint the Mona Lisa because people might like her. I don't think he was thinking about that. You know what I mean? And maybe, but, you can obviously write songs that you have to be catchy, like write for a commercial or whatever, and then you know that, but then you might use a little formula here and there. I don't know, but yeah, I agree with you. I totally agree with you. Shouldn't expect nothing.
You've worked with some pretty impressive people too. Who's been your favorite collaboration so far?
Well, excuse me.
Don't choke on the coffee.
Yeah, I know. That's why I'm almost in the coffee. I would say the last one, obviously, joining Vixen is pretty amazing, pretty exciting. I'm super excited with the journey. But besides Vixen, I think the last one that I did was pretty amazing. I did play not only with my husband, but with Adrian Smith, which is the guitar player of Iron Maiden, and to share music with him and then play. I mean, I didn't wrote the songs or record the songs. Excuse me, but I did perform them with them, and it was surreal, because it's one of those bands that I grew up listening. Iron Maiden, I was like, Jesus, I'm a bass player, so Steve Harris, and then now every night he was next to me, like not Richie, he was, and I was jamming with him, and like, obviously, you kind of forget that exactly who he is, because he's a person first of everything. He's a nice, awesome person, and I'm jamming with him, like, and then sometimes like pinch myself, so cool, I'm jamming with Adrian Smith. So that's for sure. It was probably the latest, more awesome experience.
So, have you ever met or played with anybody that you've been starstruck by?
Well, probably him a little bit. Well, I jammed before. I played a few times with Nuno Bettencourt, and we grew up listening to Extreme in Brazil for sure. When in one of his parties, I actually jammed with Steve Vai, Steve Lukather, and Nuno at the same little. I'm looking around like, I can't believe I'm playing with those guys. And I love guitar players. I love listening to solos. So Steve Vai is just mind-blowing to me. And when I shared the stage there with you, even briefly, I was like, I can't believe I'm playing with Steve Vai right now. So yeah, for sure. I'm sure I'm forgetting people too, because it's been so long, but for sure. Yeah.
So how do you create your opportunities?
Ooh. I think I'm not necessarily going to be available for everything, right? So being available is good, but like, I think creating opportunities, I don't know how you create opportunities, but I know how you have to at least be prepared for the opportunities. You know what I mean? Like, because you can try to create as much as you want, but you definitely have to be prepared for when it comes. So like, you know, the way that I create my opportunities, I mean, I post on social media, I tell people, hey, I maybe put a song out, I go out and jam, I meet people. I might say, oh, I'm looking for a gig, you know, whatever. You put yourself out, but at the same time, you have to be prepared for it.
Yeah.
You know, you can't just like, they offer me this gig. Ooh, I don't know if I can do it. Then I don't know. It's good to be prepared for sure. Improve all the time, be improving.
What would be a dream opportunity for you? Or a dream collaboration?
Oh my God, a dream collaboration probably will be writing or having some session or whatever with Ann Wilson from Heart.
Mm-hmm.
I love her so much. I love her voice. It's just a big inspiration. I love Steven Tyler
too.
So whatever, I'll just, you know, I met him a few times. It's just, I wanted to be him. I start playing because I want to be him. I didn't know exactly, you know, I didn't want to be a singer necessarily when I start music, but I saw him. I'm like, whatever he's doing, I want to be that, you know? So there's probably a bunch of dream collaborations that I would like to do.
Do you pick things up from people that you admire and adapt them into either your style of playing or your stage presence?
Well,
and I don't mean like copying them, but I know even for me, you know, you pick up the little pieces along the way.
I think it's naturally, automatically, you know, like if I hear too much, for example, if I went to England, to UK, right, to play with Aerosmith and Richie, I slowly start speaking very horrendously, but I was kind of dropping some, you know what I mean? Like I was dropping the accent.
I bet that was entertaining.
It was horrendous. But, you know, I was dropping the accent. So naturally, you get what's the word? Inspiration or whatever, influences, an influence. So yeah, when I'm hearing, like, if I'm dissecting in Wilson's, oh my God, how does she put the voice here, blah, blah, blah. I think automatically I will kind of get a few things here and there from her, or like by watching someone, I might get inspired. I don't know, but I think it's more automatic, and it's more like inspirations from your daily, you know, life that you get, you know, you listen to this music, you see these people. But yeah, I don't know, like, oh, I do this from this person. I would not know, but probably, you know, I remember I released one song one day and the guy said, oh, you sound like, which I was like surprised. You sound like Alanis Morissette. I'm like, oh, really? But I couldn't see that. I couldn't, but for him, apparently it did. So, okay. So, you know, it's interesting, but probably, I'm sure I do.
So let's talk about road life for a minute. What's that like for you?
Well, it's two things. It's amazing and it's exhausting, you know, and that's the big part of the work. And then, you know, my husband says we get paid to travel, not to play, because the playing is a fun part, but we travel so much, you know. Yeah. And then when you travel, you get sleep deprived and whatever, and you have to still maintain a nice vibe with the people that you work. You don't want to become grumpy, you know.
Yep.
So I think that's a pretty hard thing to deal with, but that's what people don't get it. They're like, oh, musicians don't work. That's a big part of the work, your social skills, because you can ruin a relationship with the band because of all of this, because of living together for so long. Yeah. So the road is very interesting on that way. I mean, obviously playing is amazing. That's the fun part. But the road can be tricky when those days start hitting you, and then now you have someone in a band like being a dick or whatever, like what's going on, you know, or like they're starting to fight. What is happening? So that happened in the past a lot. And that's how it is. That's how bands break up too. Like,
Yeah.
so the road is great, but it's hard.
Yeah.
It's
a lot of togetherness.
Yeah. And musicians tend to be weird and dorky and whatever, and everybody's different or flashy, whatever. You have a flashy person, a band, a shy on, and it's a lot of social skills that you have to deal with on a daily basis. Like, I always thought musicians had to be also psychologists or something, because you have to know how to deal with people. Otherwise, it can be a disaster.
Yeah. Do you have any things that you have to do before you go on stage, like any rituals or anything like that?
Yeah, I like, well, especially on Vixen now, I like to kind of run a few things, go on the side. Even if I'm with everybody around me, I just do my mindset. I just, okay, this song has this part, got it, boom. So I like to do that. I have to warm up my voice. I sing all these high notes all the time. And, some days if you didn't sleep well or whatever, you have to just drain your voice. So I do definitely some warm-ups. I have, I like to just, imagine that it's going to be great. I close my eyes and I imagine I see everybody on the stage being amazing and the crowd being amazing. Just a very brief, like, meditation, like, this is going to be great. It's going to be fine. It's going to be awesome. I like doing these little things. It's like a ritual for me.
Yeah.
And definitely I do. Okay. And I have to go to the bathroom a few hundreds of times, especially if you're nervous and you're going to play in a big, whatever. And if you're nervous, I definitely go to pee like 7,000 times before I have to go to the bathroom.
Do you get nervous?
Oh yeah. Sometimes I do. Not all the time anymore, but sometimes I do. Yeah. But more, it's an excitement more than a nervousness, It's like, so cool.
Yeah.
Because again, like, we travel so much, go so far in for that moment, and sometimes the moment can be 45 minutes, sometimes it's 70 minutes, but you know what I mean? So you build a lot until you get there.
Yeah. Let's talk about something that most people don't. And, because let's say there's something going on at home or there was a challenge or whatever, and now you have to be on the road. How do you shut that off and perform?
Well, some people can't, right? Some people, like, how many people you see sometimes that that they've been through something, then maybe on a ballad song they break down and they kind of cry a little or something like that. You never know what it is, but that's a big thing. Like, it's like you kind of have to leave your problems behind for that period of time on stage, at least. I did that a few times, and you just reset. You're like, okay, I'm here to entertain. Nobody gives a shit what's going on to nothing, because they pay the tickets. They don't want to, whatever.
Yeah.
Or like, even if you're playing for someone, especially if you're being a sideman, forget it. Nobody wants to know your problems. They want to see the solutions. So it's hardcore. I mean, you just have to swallow, do your thing, be a robot, a machine on that minute. And then you, of course, it's your life. But I had to do that a few times, for sure. And for me, being on stage takes my brain out of the problem too, It's helpful. It's like therapy in a sense, especially if it's a nice gig, it's a fun gig, whatever, with fun people. It helps.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does.
So what have you learned from your journey so far?
I learned a lot. One of the biggest things I learned about the hierarchy. How do you say hierarchy?
Hierarchy.
The hierarchy. Yeah. In Portuguese, it's a hierarquia. So that's a big thing, and it is important, and to respect people that have been there for so long and listen. I learned a lot about listening to the stories and looking and seeing, personalities are very different. In the music business, there's a lot of egos. So I learned a lot about that. Yeah. And I learned also how to put myself in my place, because, it's how it is in any job like that. You can't necessarily overshine your boss. You might get fired, Yeah. So this is, I think I learned a bunch of stuff for sure, but the social skills is what I learned the most, more than music. Because in the end of the day is what I said, you spend way more time traveling with these people, sitting in a bus, looking at each other like this, tired, bored, whatever, than on stage. So social skills, big time, learn a lot.
So what have you learned that surprised you the most?
Ooh, what surprised me the most? Well, in a good side, I learned I had a all-female band in Brazil. In the beginning, it was all female, and then it changed. But that was pretty hard. It was hard. And there was a lot of jealousy, a lot of weird things. Like it wasn't, you know, supportive. Like, oh, you look great. Oh yeah, none of that. And I hate it. And in the end, I promised myself I'm never gonna play with girls again. But that never happened because I always had at least one partner that was a girl with me. But when I joined Vixen, everybody there is super nice. They're super supportive. There's, oh my God, you look great on this photo. And then they go and post. In Brazil, I was like, you look great in this photo, burn it. It was like that. So I learned, was surprised. I learned that I basically can't trust, again, the female part that everybody keeps saying, you know, like, oh, girls are difficult to deal with. Well, not all the girls, you know, and I learned, because people talk a lot about, like, you know, empowerment, female and blah, blah, blah. But then in the same time, they're like, in your back stabbing you.
Yeah.
So wait a minute. Let's then be real then. If you're jealous, why you're jealous? Or if you think you're pretty, just say it. Oh my God, you look so pretty. What are you doing? Oh my God, I'm so jealous. But whatever. But even if you say, it's so much easier. It's so much transparent, you know, that support. And then you might say, okay, what did you do to your hair? I want to copy, whatever, you know?
Right.
So surprisingly, I learned a lot about that. I've been learning a lot about how to trust, again, girls, which is so weird to me to think about, you know, and especially nowadays that we talk a lot about this.
Yeah.
But we don't talk a lot about that.
Yes, it's true. And, you know, it's interesting that you bring that up, because that was, you and I met a couple of months ago at Rock and Roll Fantasy Camp. And it was the first women's only camp. And that's what was so touching to me about what I saw at that camp, because I saw so much support among everyone and so much, you know, cheering for one another. And it was just women supporting women. And it was amazing, because it doesn't always happen.
Yes. And that was one of the surprising moments that I experienced. I left there like super touched, and I learned a lot. Like, you know, I learned, I never, like back in the day, I would never look at you like, and if I liked your eyes, I was, oh my God, your eyes are beautiful. I'll never say that, because nobody ever did that to me. You know, it was always like, oh, what happened? You look like shit today. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay. And then there, obviously I was a counselor, and one of my jobs is to make the girls feel good, and they should feel good, because they're doing something that is not easy. You know, they're putting themselves out there, playing songs that are, you know, huge songs. And that whole exchange of like, you can do it, you got this, all this stuff, like the support and this like encouragement. I remember I left, it was only 4 days, but I left, I was like, fuck, I learned a lot this weekend, and how to be a little more vulnerable towards women, because it's fine, it's okay, we should be supporting ourselves like every day, you know, and not feeling like, oh, you look great, and then she turned, oh, that bitch, you know, this kind of stuff happen all the time.
Yeah.
So that was pretty amazing to see. I mean, and then we were hugging each other every day, and you could feel it was a real hug, you know, it was a real like, yes, like we're actually being vulnerable here. It's good, you know, stop having all these like weapons in the hands.
Yeah.
So that was pretty awesome. I thought it was pretty awesome.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. I wish every girl could experience something like that, you know, like, hey girls, when people are talking about, you know, supporting women and empowerment, that's what it should be learning about, you know, for real.
Yeah.
Not just I put a photo of someone who it's way deeper than that, and it's achievable, which is great. So I felt very, very good.
Yeah. I completely agree with you.
Yeah.
So what's next for you?
More coffee. I'm kidding. Well, next for me, as I said a little bit, I'm finishing slowly but surely my first solo album that I wrote all the songs, lyrics, arranged, the whole 9 yards, because I love doing that. So I'm finishing that. Obviously playing more with Vixen, which is super exciting. We just record a single. We're planning on just trying to get some writing together, just go jam something. So this is pretty exciting. And work, I think work. I mean, that's my next step, is just like put myself out more, on the sense like finishing my work and, playing more with, because that's what I love to do,
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what's next. Go out and rock.
Love it. And with that, Julia, I only have 4 final questions for you.
Okay.
First one, what's the best piece of advice you were ever given?
Well, I guess a very interesting piece of advice, first of all, that nobody really think about, is to breathe. Before you enter, before you make a decision, before anything, breathe and connect yourself, because you have the answer deep inside. You do. We always know what you want, but because of other people and what we think is going to happen, we start, neglecting ourselves. So breathe and connect with yourself, first of all, because that's very important.
Love that. Share with us one thing on your bucket list.
Ooh, there's so many. I think I would love to tour in Brazil with Julia being Julia, like playing rock and roll, Vixen, whatever, tour in Brazil, because I toured so many years in Brazil, but I was playing country. So I would love to go back to my country, like with Vixen, for example, and play some good rock and roll and just be me. So I'd love to do that for sure. One of many.
Okay. When the toy companies finally get around to making an action figure of you, what 2 accessories will it come with?
Well, a bunch, but definitely a bass, probably red lips, because I wear a lot. I have my hair have a life on its own on stage, and I always thought maybe my hair should be like, what I mean? And the dog has to have a dog.
Yeah. And the last one, how do people find you?
Oh, there you go. My name is Julia Lage, Lage. So you can find me on Instagram, Julia_Lage. Facebook is Julia Lage, and YouTube is Julia Lage. I have a website, julialage.com. And if you want to, check me out with Vixen, it's Vixen website. I think it's Vixen. Oh my God, I forgot it. Vixen official, if I'm not wrong. And yeah, you can find me as Julia Lage for sure. And I'm always posting also the dates, show dates on my website. So julialage.com, you have access to everything. Stalk me. Be a stalker.
Thank you so much for being here, Julia.
Thank you. It was a pleasure. I love talking with you. Hopefully we can chat more in the future.
Thank you for joining us. Once again, I'm Marlana Semenza, photographer and visual strategist. Please comment, like, or share this episode, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss a thing. For more information on how I can help you create your iconic image, visit marlanasemenza.com.